Your brain isn't designed to make you happy. It's designed to keep you alive. And those are two completely different things. Every morning, millions of people wake up with the same invisible weight pressing against their chest. They know exactly what they should do. They see the path forward with perfect clarity, and yet they don't move. Not because they're lazy, not because they lack willpower, but because a system inside their skull, one that evolved over 2 million years, is actively working against the life they actually want to live. The question isn't why you can't get started. The question is, why does the most sophisticated biological computer on Earth feel like it's sabotaging you? And more importantly, can you actually take back control? Most people believe their brain is on their side, that if they just try hard enough, think positive enough, or visualize clearly enough, the resistance will fade. But here's what almost nobody realizes: your brain doesn't care about your goals. It doesn't care about your 5-year plan, your startup, your book, or your fitness transformation. What it cares about, obsessively, relentlessly, is conserving energy, avoiding risk, and maintaining the familiar. Understanding this one distinction changes everything, because once you see the machine, you can finally operate it. To understand why you stay frozen, you need to meet the two characters running your inner world. Deep in the center of your brain sits the limbic system, ancient, fast, and emotional. It processes fear in milliseconds. It triggers the fight or flight response before you even know what's happening. It's the reason you feel a jolt of anxiety when you think about sending that email, making that call, or starting that project. It doesn't speak in words, it speaks in sensation. Tight chest, racing thoughts, the subtle urge to check your phone, anything to escape the discomfort of uncertainty. Then there's the prefrontal cortex, young, slow, and deliberate. It's the part of you that plans, strategizes, and imagines a better future. It's the architect of every ambitious goal you've ever set. But here's the critical imbalance. The limbic system is roughly 400 million years old. The prefrontal cortex, barely a few 100,000. In a neurological arms race, the old brain almost always wins. When you feel that pull toward distraction, that magnetic force drawing you back to the couch or the screen, what you're actually feeling is a 400 million year old survival mechanism treating your ambition like a threat. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance, the mental stress of holding two conflicting beliefs. Your prefrontal cortex says grow, your limbic system says survive. And survival, evolutionarily speaking, always takes priority. The result? A persistent low-grade paralysis that feels like laziness, but is actually biology. Now, meet the chemical that runs the show. Dopamine isn't pleasure. That's the first lie most people believe. Dopamine is anticipation. It's the molecule of wanting, not liking. And your brain's dopamine system is calibrated by evolution to prioritize immediate, predictable rewards over distant, uncertain ones. Imagine a hunter-gatherer ancestor. A berry bush 10 feet away delivers guaranteed calories. A distant migration path might lead to better hunting, or might lead to nothing. The brain that chased distant possibilities starved. The brain that took the guaranteed reward survived. You are the descendant of the guaranteed reward brain. This is why scrolling social media feels irresistible, while writing your business plan feels like pulling teeth. The phone delivers tiny, predictable dopamine hits every few seconds. Your meaningful work delivers nothing for weeks, maybe months. To your dopamine system, the phone isn't a distraction, it's the berry bush. Your ambition is the uncertain migration path. Neuroscientist Anna Lembke at Stanford has shown how modern environments create what she calls dopamine deficits, states where baseline dopamine drops so low that ordinary activities feel unbearable. The more you overstimulate your reward system with quick hits, the more you need just to feel normal. The result is a brain that finds deep work not just difficult, but physiologically painful. You're chemically depleted. But here's what almost nobody realizes. Dopamine isn't just about reward timing. It's about prediction. Your brain releases dopamine not when you get what you want, but when you get more than you expected. This is why the first few minutes of a new project feel exciting, but the 100th hour feels like dragging yourself through mud. Your brain has predicted the outcome. The dopamine stops. And without dopamine, the prefrontal cortex loses the chemical fuel it needs to keep the limbic system at bay. There's a popular idea that your brain is like clay, soft, moldable, infinitely changeable. And in one sense that's true. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself based on experience, is one of the most important discoveries in modern neuroscience. London taxi drivers who memorize the city's streets develop larger posterior hippocampi. Musicians who practice daily show thicker corpus callosum connecting their brain hemispheres. Your brain literally reshapes itself based on what you repeatedly do. But here's the paradox. Plasticity works in both directions. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you don't just miss an opportunity for growth, you strengthen the neural pathway for avoidance. You make it easier to avoid next time. The brain doesn't distinguish between good habits and bad habits. It only distinguishes between repeated patterns. This is why breaking out of a rut feels exponentially harder the longer you stay in it. You're not just fighting laziness, you're fighting the physical architecture of your own neurons. In the 1990s, neuroscientist Michael Merzenich demonstrated that when monkeys stopped using certain fingers, the brain areas controlling those fingers were rapidly taken over by adjacent functions. Use it or lose it isn't a motivational slogan, it's a biological law. The brain is ruthlessly efficient. It allocates resources to whatever you consistently do. If you consistently do nothing, it optimizes for nothing. There's a network in your brain that activates when you're not focused on the outside world. It's called the default mode network, and it's responsible for mind wandering, self-reflection, and critically, rumination. When you're stuck, this network becomes hyperactive. It replays past failures. It simulates future catastrophes. It creates a running commentary of why you shouldn't try, why you'll fail, why it's safer to stay where you are. For people with depression or chronic anxiety, the default mode network is essentially stuck in the on position. But even in healthy brains, this system creates what psychologists call negativity bias, the tendency to weight negative experiences more heavily than positive ones. Evolution again. A single missed predator meant death. 100 successful hunts meant another day of survival. The brain evolved to be a threat detection machine, not a happiness optimization machine. What if the problem isn't your motivation? What if the problem is that you're listening to a system that was never designed to help you thrive? Charles Duhigg popularized the habit loop: cue, routine, reward. But the neuroscience goes deeper. When a behavior becomes habitual, it moves from the prefrontal cortex to the basal ganglia, a deeper, older brain structure that operates largely outside conscious awareness. This is why you can drive home from work without remembering the trip. It's efficient, it's automatic, and it's terrifying when the habit is procrastination. Here's what your brain is doing that you don't even notice. Every time you feel the cue of work-related anxiety and respond with the routine of distraction, your basal ganglia encodes that pattern. Eventually, the behavior becomes so automatic that you don't even experience the choice. You sit down to work, feel a flicker of discomfort, and suddenly it's 2 hours later and you're watching videos of people repairing watches in Siberia. You didn't decide that. Your basal ganglia decided for you. The famous Stanford marshmallow experiment by Walter Mischel wasn't really about willpower in children. Follow-up studies showed that the kids who waited didn't just have more self-control, they had strategies. They distracted themselves. They reframed the situation. They understood something fundamental. Willpower is a limited resource, but systems are infinite. The ones who succeeded didn't overpower their brains. They outsmarted them. Economists used to assume humans were rational actors who weighed costs and benefits objectively. Then psychologists like Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky proved what we all feel. Humans are systematically irrational, especially about the future. We discount future rewards at absurd rates. $1 today is worth more than $2 next year. A moment of comfort now is worth more than a year of achievement later. This is called hyperbolic discounting, and it's rooted in the same survival logic as everything else. Your brain evolved in an environment where the future was genuinely uncertain. Planning for next season made no sense when you might not survive the week. So your brain prioritizes the present, aggressively, disproportionately, almost irrationally. When you choose Netflix over your side project, you're not being weak. You're being a perfectly calibrated ancestral human in a world that no longer exists. But here's where everything changes. Kahneman's research on prospect theory revealed something crucial. Humans feel losses about twice as intensely as equivalent gains. This means the pain of starting, the risk of failure, the discomfort of uncertainty, registers in your brain as roughly twice as powerful as the pleasure of succeeding. Your brain isn't neutral about your goals, it's actively biased against them. Understanding this bias is the first step to designing around it. Every decision you make depletes a limited pool of mental energy. This isn't metaphor, it's glucose. Your prefrontal cortex runs on glucose, and complex decision-making burns through it rapidly. This is why you make worse choices at the end of the day. It's why successful people like Steve Jobs wore the same outfit daily, eliminating trivial decisions to preserve cognitive resources for what mattered. But modern life doesn't respect your cognitive budget. You make thousands of micro-decisions daily: which email to answer, which notification to check, which task to prioritize. By the time you sit down to do meaningful work, your prefrontal cortex is running on fumes. Meanwhile, your limbic system, ancient, automatic, energy efficient, is fresh and ready to steer you toward comfort. The research by Roy Baumeister on ego depletion has been debated, but the core insight holds. Self-control is a finite resource that gets depleted by use. You can't just try harder indefinitely. You need to reduce the number of decisions your prefrontal cortex has to make. You need to make the right choice the easy choice. You need to design your environment so that doing the work requires less willpower than avoiding it. Anxiety isn't just an emotion, it's a physiological state that hijacks your brain's executive functions. When you're anxious, your amygdala, the brain's threat detector, floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline. This is brilliant if you're facing a predator. It's catastrophic if you're facing a blank page. Here's the trap. Anxiety about a task leads to avoidance. Avoidance provides temporary relief. Temporary relief reinforces avoidance, but the task doesn't disappear. It grows. The deadline approaches. The anxiety increases. The avoidance deepens. This is the procrastination anxiety loop, and it's one of the most well-documented patterns in clinical psychology. Neuroscientists have found that simply imagining a difficult task activates the same pain centers in the brain as physical pain. Your brain literally experiences the anticipation of hard work as suffering. But, and this is the critical discovery, once you actually start, that pain disappears almost immediately. The gap between thinking about work and doing work is where most people get stuck. It's not the work that hurts, it's the thought of the work. Your brain doesn't experience reality directly. It constructs a narrative. Cognitive psychologists call these mental models, internal representations of how the world works. And most people's mental models about themselves are catastrophically wrong. You tell yourself you're a procrastinator. You tell yourself you lack discipline. You tell yourself you work best under pressure. These aren't observations. They're identity statements. And identity is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. When you say, "I'm lazy," your brain stops looking for solutions and starts looking for evidence. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Carol Dweck's research on growth mindset showed that people who believe abilities can be developed outperform those who believe abilities are fixed, not because they're more talented, but because they interpret difficulty differently. A fixed mindset brain experiences struggle as proof of inadequacy. A growth mindset brain experiences struggle as information. Same challenge, different story, different neurochemistry, different outcome. What if the story you've been telling yourself about why you're stuck is actually the main thing keeping you there? So let's pull this together. Your brain keeps you stuck because your limbic system treats uncertainty as threat. Your dopamine system prioritizes immediate, predictable rewards. Your default mode network generates catastrophic predictions. Your basal ganglia automates avoidance patterns. Your cognitive biases discount future rewards. Or decision-making capacity depletes throughout the day. Your anxiety triggers avoidance, which reinforces more anxiety. And your mental models create identity-level barriers that feel like personality traits. None of this is a moral failing. It's neurobiology. It's evolution. It's the legacy of a brain built for a world that no longer exists. But here's what the science actually shows. You can change it. Not through willpower, not through positive thinking, but through understanding the machine and operating it deliberately. The anticipation of pain is worse than the pain itself. Design your environment so the right choice is the easy choice. Reduce decisions. Create systems. Reframe your mental models. Your brain is plastic. Every time you choose action over avoidance, you weaken the old pathway and strengthen the new one. It won't feel good at first. It will feel wrong. That's not failure. That's rewiring. The most liberating truth in neuroscience is this: you are not your thoughts. You are not your impulses. You are not the voice in your head that says you're not enough, that it's too late, that you'll fail. You are the observer of those patterns. An observation, simple, non-judgmental awareness, is the first act of freedom. Your brain will always try to keep you safe. It will always prefer the familiar. It will always whisper that comfort is the wisest choice. But you are not trapped in this architecture. You are the architect now. If understanding your own mind fascinates you, you'll find many more ideas here worth exploring.